Part 95. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 941. Chapter 941 Homeless. There is news over there that the woman we sent has successfully confused Zhang Shiyao and replaced Yi Suiao's mother. Now she is like a homeless beggar who cannot go home and has no money on her. Hey, you're living in such a miserable life without even contacting your daughter Yi Suiao. Yi Suiao's funds originally belonged to B, but B stopped funding her, and now she is penniless. That's a really good show, keep watching. Yes. Secretary Zhao arranged for the former mistress to successfully squeeze out Yi's mother Li Ru's position, so Zhang Shiyao cruelly drove Li Ru out of the Zhang family, leaving her homeless and despised. Yi Suiao and Yi's mother Li Ru's money and freedom are restricted. One cannot get through, and the other cannot come back. The feeling of helplessness almost drives the mother and daughter crazy. Yi Suiao still placed her hope on B, but when she came to find someone, she was told that B was no longer in S city. The mother and daughter have almost no room for improvement, and the next thing that needs to be solved is Xiang Zimu. The reason why Xiang Zimu was left alone for so long was because Kitano had already retaliated against Xiang Zimu in a man's way. But for Ye Wei, that wasn't much of a punishment. To truly punish a person, you must first break his heart. Xiang Zimu was very kind to Yi Suiao. He came out of the hospital when his health was a little better and took the homeless Yi Suiao back to his house. The two people who were retaliated warmed each other. But why is Xiang Zimu so kind to a woman who is not related by blood? It's not just because I like it. Xiang Zimu likes Yi Suiao, and most people who know them know it, but the two of them pretend to be stupid and claim to the outside world that the relationship is about the brother taking care of the sister. Xiang Zimu is not the kind of argumentative man. He knows that Yi Suiao likes B, so he keeps his feelings in his heart and silently protects Yi Suiao. Yi Suiao knew Xiang Zimu's feelings for her but pretended not to know, and has been enjoying Xiang Zimu's kindness to her unconditionally. Concerning these 2 points, I really don't know whether to praise Xiang Zimu as deeply in love or extremely stupid. Probably still affectionate. After all, you can't control things like feelings. When you like someone, you want to be nice to them. Sometimes you really can't control this kind of thing. Young madam, what are you thinking about? Len Yangzi came over with a fruit plate, interrupting Ye Wei's train of thought. Ye Wei rubbed his forehead and stood up. Go and help me with something. She is still training in City G at the moment, and Len Yangzi is someone she has just hired. Yezikan refused to let Len Yangzi take care of her. At that time, she did not argue, and neither did Len Yangzi. Little did he know that Len Yangzi had studied hard for 2 months, learned a lot of information about pregnant women, and came to her with a college education. The two of them have also reached an agreement on this matter. From now on, Len Yangzi will stay with her to take care of her food and daily life, and Ye Wei plans to cultivate some of her ability to deal with things. Told Len Yangzi roughly what happened, and Len Yangzi quickly understood what Ye Wei meant. Xiang Zimu has been living outside for 5 years, but he is not without relatives. If his family knew that Xiang Zimu liked Yi Suiao even if he broke the law, I am afraid they would feel very uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, you will become dissatisfied with Yi Suiao. If he is dissatisfied with Yi Suiao, he will naturally find a way to drive her away from Xiang Zimu. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 942. Chapter 942 Exonerate her. As expected, under yes-only arrangement, Xiang Zimu's family rushed into the house and dragged Yi Suiao out. That's right, I just dragged it out. Ye Wei was extremely happy when she learned from Len Yangzi what had happened, because it was really a relief. Xiang's family was dissatisfied with Yi Suiao, and they were refused to talk to Xiang Zimu, so they went directly to Xiang Zimu's small house to find Yi Suiao, and found that Yi Suiao was well raised. But a woman who doesn't know how to do things and can only use money to cause trouble is equal to a drag. She turned against her family on the spot and asked her to leave Xiang Zimu. Xiang Zimu is now Yi Suiao's only support. How could she be willing to leave? At first, Yi Suiao cooperated tactfully and left, thinking that she would go back after Xiang's family left, but Xiang's family was not a fuel-efficient lamp, so they directly stayed at Xiang Zimu's house to prevent her from sneaking back. Xiang Zimu really likes Yi Suiao, but he doesn't want to ignore his family, so he can't do both. He can only rent a house for Yi Suiao outside and go home to spend time with his relatives. Xiang Zimu and Yi Suiao must be feeling aggrieved, but there is nothing they can do. They must pay for their sins. Ye Weiwei waited to see how long Zimu would last. Unexpectedly, only 2 days later, bad news came to Len Yangzi. Xiang Zimu's grandfather has been admitted to the hospital. What happened? Yi Suiao wanted to go back, but Xiang Zimu's grandfather stopped her and pushed her out. Without paying attention, Yi Suiao pushed Xiang Zimu's grandfather. Now the old man is injured and hit his head and is admitted to the hospital. Hospital. When Ye Weiwei heard the unexpected news, he felt as if a scoop of cold water had been poured on his heart, and a chill spread throughout his body. Give that money to Xiang's family and find them a skilled doctor. Make sure the old man takes good care of himself. Okay, I'll do it right away. After saying those words, Ye Weiwei sat on the sofa and wiped his hair irritably. She deliberately asked the Xiang family to cause trouble for Xiang Zimu, but she never thought that such an unexpected thing would happen. Although she believes in retribution, she always takes revenge on those who have done something wrong, and does not arbitrarily implicate others with her anger. It was as if she thought she and Yehantian had a grudge against Yehantian for killing her father, but she never put the blame on Yezikin. The same is true now. But I didn't expect to hurt innocent people. This was not her intention. Ye Weiwei asked Len Yangzi to hand over a sum of money to the Xiang family and stop using the Xiang family to attack Yi Suiao. But the unexpected result that she didn't expect was that Xiang Zimu had a quarrel with Yi Suiao after he knew that his grandfather was pushed to the place by Yi Suiao and almost had a big accident, and the relationship between the two was not that close. Hatefully planting willows and willows to create shade. I wanted to stop here, but the expected results were better than planned. After learning the desired result, her selfish revenge was finally over. Ye Weiwei specifically conveyed this matter to Yuan Ran, and at the same time contacted Bai Ye. My revenge is over, are you going to send them to where they should go? A mysterious word is the way of communication between Ye Weiwei and Kitano. Inform the police about Li Rui's crime of stealing other people's organs from Xiang Zimu and send him to jail. However, just when Ye Weiwei thought the matter was over, Len Yangzi told her, Li Ru doesn't have to be responsible for that matter anymore. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 943. Chapter 943 Mental Disorder. What's going on? Isn't the evidence conclusive? Li Ru has a mental problem. Yi's mother has a mental problem, and this kind of patient is likely to escape responsibility. Are you going insane at this time? How can there be such a coincidence? Check it out for me and find an expert to make a good diagnosis. Young lady, don't get excited, I'll check it out right now and get back to you soon. I was a little uneasy even in class because of this incident. After class, he wanted to ask Len Yangzi about the progress of the matter, but the result was the same as before. After diagnosis, Li Ru has a mental problem. Ye Weiwei conveyed the result of this matter to Yuan Ran, and Yuan Ran, who had gone through the legal process, immediately told her, Even if you are mentally insane, if you were a normal person during the crime, you can still apply for re-identification and bear responsibility. Xiao Li, you don't have to worry about this matter. It's over now, leave it to me. This was the first time that Yuan Ran took the initiative to pursue the responsibility, and Ye Wei agreed without hesitation. Sure enough, Yuan Ran still recognized the formal procedures for punishing criminals. With Yuan Ran in charge of legal matters, Ye Wei still asked Len Yangzi to stay in S City to follow up on the situation, because Yuan Ran herself was not in S City yet. She had recently traveled to relax, and her mood was much more relaxed. Yuan Ran is very grateful to Ye Wei for finding this tourist place for her. It is surrounded by mountains and rivers, with fresh air and elegant environment. It is indeed a good place for self-cultivation. She stayed here for a few days, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city, and could really feel a kind of peace from the bottom of her heart, which was very enjoyable. She did not live in any luxurious place, but chose a B&B. The people here are simple and honest, and they treat guests well. Just when Yuan Ran was going downstairs to look for food, the shopkeeper called her and handed her a teacup. "Miss Yu, this is the scented tea I brewed today, for you to try." The shop owner has studied the tea ceremony, and inviting guests to taste tea is also a major hobby of the shop owner. Because the shop owner's craftsmanship is good, he is often praised by customers, and the shop owner will also be happy for this. Yuan Ran took a sip of tea and praised it without hesitation. "It's very good. The fragrance of tea is refreshing, which is a blessing for the taste buds." After thanking the shopkeeper for the tea, Yuan Ran went out to look for today's lunch. The food here is different from the place where he grew up, and it is also different from the rich and gorgeous decorations in big cities, so Yuan Ran is particularly interested in these novel things. He goes out for a walk every day, looking for what he is interested in today while walking. Food, taste one by one. This place is not big, and it is not a tourist attraction. An unforgettable beauty like Yuan Ran goes to the food street every day, and many people are familiar with her. When I pass by, enthusiastic bosses greet me. "Miss Yu, what else would you like to eat today?" Yuan Ran would politely turn to face the person and nod, but she would not walk in just because someone said a few more words. Instead, she insisted on looking for what she wanted today, maybe a feeling. She walked relatively slowly, searching and stopping all the way, and finally found it. This is a very ordinary farm shop. The vegetables are all grown by oneself, and the fried food tastes like home. Yuan Ran is not picky about food, she likes this light feeling. It's just that after a long period of ordinary life, seasonings will appear. Yo, where did this beauty come from? Do you think Kitano should be tortured? Or should Yuan Ran just forgive him? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 944. Chapter 944 Chasing Wife Crematorium. A strange man suddenly appeared behind Yuan Ran. Just when the man wanted to move her hands, he found that he couldn't move her hands. Because, "How dare you touch her, you pig's trotters, you don't want them anymore, do you?" The strong bee squeezed the man's arm tightly, using unknown strength to prevent him from struggling away. The man was not a tough guy, so he immediately begged for mercy. Oh, I was wrong. Leave far away." Beye shook him off, his unabashed domineering look made Yuan Ran see the shadow of the original. Yuan Ran didn't seem surprised to see B. Her eyes were calm when she looked at B, but B was a little embarrassed to look at her when he saw her. Yuan Ran stared at him for only 10 seconds before looking away and said flatly, "Thank you." After that, she picked up her chopsticks and continued eating, as if what happened just now had never happened. Her mood was still peaceful, without any ripples. B felt even more anxious when he saw that he didn't seem to be affected at all. When he first returned to S City, he had some calculations against Yuen Ran. At that time, he could be unscrupulous, but now that he really wanted to reveal it, he realized how much he owed Yuen Ran. Missing 5 years is a regret that he will never make up for in his life. Baya has a trick for chasing his wife, and that is, being shameless. If you want to pursue a cold-tempered woman like Yuen Ran, if you are embarrassed to express your feelings or don't have the courage to take the initiative, it is absolutely impossible to succeed. And a man like B, who is as proactive as the thickness of a city wall when pursuing his wife, is Yuen Ran's nemesis. Seeing Yuen Ran eating quietly without any intention of saying hello or saying anything to her, Kitano directly pulled out the stool opposite her and sat down. But Yuen Ran is so awesome that he can turn a blind eye to others and eat quietly. When she was about to wipe her mouth, Baya seized the opportunity to be courteous and handed her some napkins. However, Yuen Ran still pretended not to see it, took a tissue from the box to wipe his mouth, and then called the boss to pay the bill. After the boss calculated the money, she scanned the QR code to pay. This is the result of Kitano's careful observation. Yuen Ran walked back after lunch, not directly back to the B&B, but walking along the road as a walk to enjoy the scenery. And Baya followed behind. Yuen Ran called on the street while walking. She spoke softly. She didn't know what she said, but her expression looked very relaxed. Ran Ran. B tried to shout, but got no response. But even if he found Yuen Ran's indifference now, B could only accept it. Who made him do something wrong? Just accept the punishment. But the key point is that Yuen Ran doesn't punish him, or he is too lazy to pay attention to him. B held the phone in his hand, wondering whether to call Ye Wei and ask her for help. But think about it, if he can't recover Yuen Ran by his own ability, what's the point? Baya has a complicated heart, probably because he has been with Chu Sui for a long time, and his heart is full of drama. Baya sighed and looked up at the sky. At this moment, I unexpectedly found that the sky was gradually darkening, as if it was going to rain. He ran a few steps to catch up with Yuen Ran. Of course, it seems like it's going to rain. The most beautiful thing is not the rainy day, but the eves we hide with you. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 945. Chapter 945, A Roof to Hide from the Rain. Is it raining? Yuen Ran looked up and saw that the sky was gradually filled with dark clouds. She didn't care at first, but suddenly thought of something and started running forward. Of course, you can't sprint. Seeing Yuen Ran's sudden increase in speed, Baya's little thoughts instantly turned into worry. B's speed was of course much faster than Yuen Ran's, and he quickly caught up with her, but he just held her hand forcefully, causing Yuen Ran to frown dissatisfied. B stopped her. It should rain for a while, and it's still time to walk back. Even if it rains, I will stay with you. Baya thought she was afraid of the rain and wanted to run back to hide from the rain. But Yuen Ran brushed his hand away calmly. You don't know anything. A simple sentence separates the relationship between two people. Kitano really doesn't dare to think of being as tough on Yuen Ran as he did before, because in his heart, he feels that Yuen Ran is no longer water that cannot be broken up no matter what, but fragile glass that needs to be held in the palm of his hand. Protect. Of course, if I don't know something, you can tell me, and I'm willing to listen. Nothing to do with you. Yuen Ran turned around and continued walking forward, but he didn't run like before. B followed silently, and until he watched Yuen Ran return to the B&B where he lived, he still stood outside and did not leave. Just saw Yuen Ran come out again after a while. Baya thought she was coming out to look for him, but he saw Yuen Ran holding a flower basket in his hand and seemed to be going to do something. What you up to? Cut flowers. B asked her, but she didn't give any details. B followed and walked around the B&B to see a small square field behind it. Beye saw with his own eyes Yuan Ran, who was carrying a flower basket, walked up to the owner of the B&B, exchanged a few words quickly, and the two began to pick and cut flowers. "Miss Yu, thank you so much for coming to help me. It's nothing after drinking scented tea, you have to pay something, right? When I was drinking flower tea just now, I heard the boss say that he would collect some flowers this afternoon. I didn't expect it to rain so soon." She just heard Kitano say that it was going to rain, and then she suddenly remembered what the shopkeeper had mentioned casually, and wanted to rush back to help. Fortunately, she made it in time. The shopkeeper talked a lot, so Yuan Ran said something. B walked over and snatched her flower basket. "Of course, you go back, I'll do it." The shop owner was very wary of this man who suddenly appeared to grab something, but when he saw his face, he felt familiar. "You seem to have been hanging around outside our store for a few days." Kitano was exposed by the shopkeeper's words. "Boss, if you don't pick the flowers, it will rain heavily." With Kitano's kind-hearted reminder, Ziwa's boss quickly lowered his head to collect the things. B snatched Yuan Ran's flower basket, but Yuan Ran took it out of his hand and said, "I'll do it myself." "Of course. I can do this kind of thing. Just obey me and go back." Beye wholeheartedly protected Yuan Ran and did not want her to be harmed in the slightest. The masculine protective desire in his heart came out, but he still touched Yuan Ran's painful foot. Yuan Ran held the flower basket tightly, raised her eyes to look at him, and said in an indifferent tone, "B, you will always be like this, regardless of other people's wishes. I am doing it for your own good. But I don't need it." Hua hua la la. While the two were arguing, heavy rain fell from the sky and directly drenched the people's bodies. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 946. Chapter 946. Ran Ran, I will protect you. Of course, you go back. Beye grabbed Yuan Ran's wrist to pull her back. But Yuan Ran waved away his hand. "Beye, why don't you understand? If something passes, let it pass. The rain is heavy and these flowers are almost cut. Let's go back." The boss took things to protect the flower basket and called Yuan Ran back to the store. Yuan Ran gave the flower basket to the boss to take good care of it. "It's okay if it rains a little, don't ruin the flowers. Those who understand each other don't need to say anything." The boss took the flower basket and hurried back quickly. Yuan Ran raised his head and suddenly felt a shadow cast above his head. She subconsciously looked up and saw Kitano taking off his coat and holding it on top of his head to protect her from the raindrops. Several people rushed back to the store, their clothes soaked through. When he arrived at the door, Yuan Ran stopped and thanked Kitano again. "Thank you." When Kitano heard these three words, he felt his head hurt, because the apology was so tactful, it sounded really heartbreaking. "Of course, you go back and change your clothes first to avoid catching a cold." "Well, you should go back too." As if he was about to say goodbye, Kitano suddenly refused to leave. "However, the place I live is still far away from here. Are you willing to let me go out to get wet in the rain?" Pretending to be aggrieved to gain sympathy, Kitano has done this before. Yuan Ran turned around and said a few words to the person in the store, and the person took an umbrella and handed it to Yuan Ran. Yuan Ran thanked him after taking it, and handed the umbrella to Beye, who was standing at the door, and said, "Your accommodation is only 100 meters away from here. I'll give you an umbrella." "You're welcome. Beye is nearby." Yuan Ran knew it the day after he arrived here, but everyone knew it tacitly. Kitano obviously came here for her, so how could he book accommodation far away? Yuan Ran has a very clear mind. Whether the bitter meat trick is effective or not depends entirely on whether she is willing to play with you. Obviously, Yuan Ran just wants to cut off the relationship with him now. Hurrying back to the room, she closed the door with a bang, and a lot of words came into her head at once. Of course, I will protect you. Be obedient and go back. I am doing it for your own good. I covered my ears with my hands and rubbed them. The feeling I couldn't get rid of was so terrible. She turned around and entered the bathroom. It wasn't until the warm water from the shower washed over her body that her whole heart gradually calmed down. She sat on the bed, holding her cell phone and staring at the screen for a long time, hesitating whether to call and greet Kitano. But if this call is made, Kitano will definitely regain his interest, and the consequences will be very troublesome. Just when Yuan Ran was hesitant, a friend from City S called. Previously, Li Ru's mental evaluation results confirmed that there were abnormalities, so she contacted her friends in the law department to help her apply for a reapplication. It was determined that Li Ru was normal when she committed the crime, and her crime would be redefined. Well, I'll leave this matter to you. Xiang Zimu and Li Ru suffered the consequences, while the rescued Yi Suiao managed to escape without knowing it. It's just that Yi Suiao has no one to rely on now, and her life seems to be difficult. But this is not something she should consider. Yuan Ran changed her clothes and went downstairs. When the boss saw her, he gave her a bag of dried flower tea. Thank you so much, Miss Yu. It's not enough to lift a finger. It's rare for someone to drink my scented tea and still think of protecting the flowers. By the way, that man just now is Miss Yu's boyfriend, right? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 947. Chapter 947 Honeymoon. No, Yuan Ran denied. How could it not be the case? Are you having trouble? That kid hangs around in front of my store every day. I don't think he looks like a bad guy. Plus the scene in the shower just now, you can't deny it even if you want to. The shop owner said the words were spoken with a smile on his face. At that moment, Yuan Ran knew that no matter how he explained, it would be impossible to distance himself from his relationship with Kitano. Seeing Yuan Ran's silence, the shop owner took her as her acquiescence. The shop owner liked this young girl very much, and immediately chatted with her casually. It is normal for young people to be noisy. What matters for two people to be together is fate and courage. I have never. There is courage in that boy's eyes. Even if there is a little bit of fate, his initiative can make up for what is missing between you. What you said makes sense. But, we are not suitable. There is nothing inappropriate about how to get along with other people in the end. It all depends on your own heart. Yuan Ran heard clearly what the shopkeeper said, but did not react. The shop owner was sitting there selecting the flowers he had just picked. These flowers also need a flower protector. Yuan Ran walked away silently. I went back to the room and contacted the secretary to ask about the company's situation. After the secretary gave a complete report on the business, he said something private. Mr. Yu, you have been out for too long this time. The chairman never mentioned that there is a cooperation project recently. We haven't reached an agreement, so the board of directors is trying to put pressure on the chairman, but I think the chairman is very tired. Of course, I know you have suffered too, but I still have to tell you about the situation here to see if anything can be solved. Method. This secretary was brought out by her personally. She is very loyal, but not foolishly loyal. She knows what to say and what not to say. Yuan Ran understood. Don't worry, I will rush back as soon as possible. Yuan Ran has long known that living in such a family, she is destined to lose her freedom. She is the daughter of the Yu family, so it is impossible for her mother to take care of everything. Moreover, she is unwilling to marry. The Yu family has no support, so it will be so hard when they are targeted and attacked by their peers. She did not handle all of this well. Yuan Ran didn't stay here any longer. After she hung up the phone, she started packing her things in the room. When she went down to check in the room, the shopkeeper saw her first. Seeing the pile of things in her hand, the shopkeeper asked, "Miss Yu, what is this?" "I'm leaving, thank you for the hospitality these days." "You are a guest, so you should." After settling the deposit, the shopkeeper asked her before she left, "But has Miss Yu reconciled with her boyfriend?" Yuan Ran picked up his suitcase and stood there for a moment, shaking his head. "No, he is not my boyfriend, I just want to go home. If he comes again next time, please tell her." "Good." She left and said goodbye to this peaceful place. As soon as Yuan Ran left the B&B with her suitcase, Kitano came in. The shop owner looked up and saw him. "Hey, young man, your friend just left. She told you when she saw you that she was going home." "I know. You're not going to chase me. Let her go. It's so easy to give up." "That's impossible, the boss will prepare scented tea for us to spend our honeymoon." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 948. Chapter 948. Are they twins? When Ye Weiwei attended training in G City for the third month, her belly got a little bigger. At this time, she wore a lot of clothes, but it was not obvious yet. So much so that, there are always men who want to confess to her. It's not that she is narcissistic, because some people's vision and behavior are really obvious. Fortunately, Yezikin never appeared directly in the school, otherwise he would have been jealous and went back. Yayoi studied here and kept a low profile, but her academic performance was so excellent that the teacher always liked to call her names on her. She has tried her best to decline, but she will be talked about once she stands on the stage. "Chiao Li, did you hear those people praising you again? You are really great. Every time the teacher assigns you, you complete the homework very well. If I were not familiar with you, I would definitely think that you were trained professionally before." Fortunately, the assignments assigned by the teacher are all what he has discussed in class. I also listened very carefully, but I just couldn't achieve the effect the teacher wanted. How come? Everyone has different appreciation of works. The friend at the same table brought another piece of music and asked her to help her look at it. Ye Weiwei looked at it seriously and suddenly felt someone pushing her hand. "What's wrong?" Turning around, he saw his desk mate pointing upwards. "Chiao Li." Ye Weiwei looked up and saw the person who had held flowers in the classroom to express his love for him standing in front of him. "Student Chiao, can you go out for a moment? I have something to tell you." "I'm sorry, I haven't finished my homework yet. If you have anything to say, please tell me here." The man scratched his head and said, "It's not good to say it here with so many people listening." "Then there's no need to say it." Ye Weiwei raised the corners of his mouth, but the curve of his curved lips showed no hint of smile. It can be said to be a complete rejection. The man just left. The table mate pulled her and whispered a few words. "This kind of person is not sincere at first glance." "It doesn't matter, it has no effect on me anyway. She doesn't care about these people anyway. After today's class, she can take another day off." However, because Yayuyi is pregnant, Yezikin has banned her from flying in the air and being a trapeze artist. She does not have to go back until the training is completed. Although we haven't seen each other much in the past 3 months, we keep video calls with Yezikin every day, but in order to prevent radiation, the video calls are not long. As people grow up, they will understand that some relationships do not require being together every day to be considered love. "Yangzi, I'm out of class. I have a day off tomorrow. Let's go shopping." "Okay." I was happily preparing to go shopping, but I didn't expect that this trip would cause trouble again. Ye Weiwei took Len Yangzi for a walk, and when she saw the baby care store, she felt itchy in her heart. Let's go in and take a look at the child's things. The two of them each picked a color after entering, pink and male. Madam, do you think the gender of the baby is boy or girl? Ye Wei thought about it for a while and shook his head slightly. They say sour ones and spicy ones, but I like sour ones and spicy ones. Maybe there are two. It would be great if that were the case. The twins would be the envy of others. Hee, I hope so too, but this kind of thing is hard to come by. Pink and blue are both very cute. I couldn't resist her shopping desire at once, so she packed up clothes in both colors, as well as some cute toys. What I didn't expect was that someone stood outside the door and took a picture of I holding the child's clothes with both hands through the transparent window. About children, the question suggests hurry up and give the baby a name. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 949. Chapter 949 I'm married. Ye Wei was caught in a pregnancy video last time. Although the incident was settled later, many people still have doubts about her. This time another video of choosing baby clothes was released, and Ye Wei didn't think about keeping it secret anymore. When someone asked, she said directly, I'm married. She looks too young. If her clothes weren't a little more mature, no one would doubt that she was 18 years old just by looking at her face. Now that she is talking about getting married, some people who initially gave her blessings find it incredible behind their backs. Of course, Ye Wei will not be swayed by such meaningless talk. But when the 3 months were over, she invited Yezikin to attend her graduation party in advance. 3 months is not a long time for learning, but it is indeed a small endpoint for their entire class training. Yezikin quickly told her the scheduled flight time. At that time, Ye reminded Len Yangzi, get ready. Let's go to the airport this afternoon. Okay. But Len Yangzi heard the doorbell just as she answered. When I opened the door and saw it, I was shocked. What's wrong? Chen, Mr. Chen is here. It really means CAO has arrived. Can Len Yangzi not be startled when the person she was just talking about arriving in the afternoon suddenly appeared at the door? Hearing this, Ye Wei walked up and stuck his head out of the room and said wow. Looking at Yezikin's familiar handsome face, he was so excited that he wanted to pounce on him. Yezikin quickly grabbed her arm and said, pay attention to the child. I know. She touched her belly and found that the baby was very quiet in her belly. When the couple met, Len Yangzi took the other two caregivers at home and walked far away to give the two of them some space to be alone. Didn't you say you would come in the afternoon? You lied to me again. It's not that I want to lie to you. I already told you that I don't want you to pick me up at the airport, but you verbally promised me that you should have asked Len Yangzi to get ready to go to the airport just now. Yezikin just knew that Ye Wei would not stay at home. So I told her a fake boarding time. Yui. Well, the two eldest brothers, let alone the second brother, are almost the same. But these are all trivial matters and cannot be considered deception. Brother Chen, are you hungry? Do you want to eat? I ate before getting on the plane. Don't move around and let me hug you. Yezikin stretched out his arms towards her, and Ye Wei hugged him and rested her head on his chest. I still remember being rejected just now you didn't let me hug you. Yezikin didn't want to take the blame. Who told you to pounce on me and hit your stomach? Ye assured him with certainty, no, I will pay special attention to taking care of the baby. She has seen some taboos that pregnant women should pay attention to during pregnancy, and also learned that some pregnant women need to be careful about their reactions during pregnancy. She was particularly worry-free during this pregnancy. The child basically didn't bother her, and even the reaction to morning sickness was not big. This was why she was not discovered by others during the 3-month training course at the school. The baby must know that mommy has worked hard, so he is so considerate to me. Who insisted on coming for training in the first place? It's me. I want to study and cultivate my children's sentiments, just in case they are born with musical abilities. Why didn't you say that children can sing when they are born? That won't scare you to death. Whoever sings when a child is born is going to be outrageous, okay? No matter what, I have graduated anyway. Brother, please accompany me to the graduation party today. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 950. Chapter 950, It's so aggrieved that my wife found out my little secret. Okay, Yezikin stretched out his hand to touch the bridge of her nose, with a gentle smile in his eyes. Yahweh nuzzled him unceremoniously, and the two of them were extremely intimate. The graduation party started at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Because of Yahweh's pregnancy, she didn't need to put on makeup or choose high heels. She wore a simple but clean everyday outfit. Even Len Yangzi, who took care of her daily, felt after seeing it, it was completely impossible to tell whether she was a married woman or a pregnant woman. Since it was the last day of the party, Yahweh thought that he could take this opportunity to tell everyone about his marriage. This was the simplest and most obvious explanation for everyone. She took out the engagement ring given by Yezikin and put it back on her hand. She raised her finger and looked at it, feeling very satisfied. Brother, does it look good? He reached out to Yezikin and waved it in front of Yezikin's eyes. Yezikin reached out and took hold of her finger, grabbed it and kissed it. Very beautiful. Your answer is always the same, there is no objective evaluation. Have you ever heard the saying beauty is in the eye of the beholder? I heard. What you said makes sense, but I am speechless. The only person you can't talk about is Yezikin. His words of kindness are full of tenderness and sweetness, and when he replies, he can instantly silence you. Fortunately, they are all what she likes to hear. Yezikin personally drove Yahweh to school. When the car drove into the training campus, it was looked at by everyone as soon as it stopped. There was no one around, but many people standing not far away were looking towards them, and they were passing the news to others. No one had the nerve to stand around and watch, so they could only stand in the distance and focus their gazes to peek. I didn't see them crowding around like this when I came here before. It seems that men are still attractive. Are you sure they can see their faces clearly from such a distance? That's right, your car is too eye-catching. This is the low-end version that Secretary Zhao picked out from the garage. The implication is that it is slightly cheaper. But his cheap car is a high price that ordinary people may not be able to afford in their lifetime. Once that luxury car is parked in an open parking space, others will certainly be jealous. Yezikin put his arm around Yahweh's shoulders and protected her as she walked. Yahweh had walked a long way before he suddenly noticed a question. Brother, haven't you been here before? How come you are so familiar with this place? Yezikin. It's so embarrassing to have my little secret exposed by my wife without mercy. Because he didn't want Yahweh to have to work hard by flying, he ordered Yahweh not to return to S-City frequently. He verbally said that he wanted to give Yah the only opportunity to exercise independently. It was just a few days without seeing each other, but it didn't matter, but he couldn't help but come over and take a sneak look at her. In order not to disturb Yahweh's thoughts, he never said anything. Brother, did you come here quietly? No. Don't try to hide it from me, you must have been here. Ahem, I've seen the map. No matter how accurate the map is, it's still different from someone who has never been here. Brother Chen, please stop making excuses and admit that you miss me so much that you can't help yourself. Isn't that good? The two of them went through the routine, both understanding it tacitly. As they were approaching the class assembly point, people with good eyesight spotted them from a distance. Look, isn't that Jiaoling, she looks so intimate with a man. Look carefully, that man has a very handsome figure. Coming over this way, I'll ask them later what their relationship is. End of this chapter.